Hi guys, in this video I'm going to go over how to transpose data from a pivot table into columns of data. Before we do that, go to Excel, VBA There's almost 36 hours of video for free and you can learn a whole bunch of stuff. So let's get started. uh, let's say you get some data that looks like this. And you have a symbol here in row 10. You have a security name, and then you have some shares of that security, and then you have dates going across the top, starting in column C, going out column D, all the way out. So this is a portfolio, and these symbols are symbols of securities like Google. I just randomly put some letters in here for the securities, but they could be Google, this could be Microsoft, whatever. But this is a portfolio that has a symbol that has stocks in it, and every stock has a symbol and a security name. That's what these pieces of data are. This data here is a number of shares, and this data is the days going out horizontally. So this is typically what a pivot table looks like. But let's say you're given this and someone asks you to turn that into data that looks like this. So here you see the symbol 375204 and security name A, and here's all the dates for that symbol. And then here's the shares by the shares for that respective day, right? That's equivalent to sort of this highlighted row here. So you want to sort of transpose this row along with that date here and the corresponding dates for these shares. You want to transpose these pieces of data into something that looks like this. And when you're done with security name A, you want to, there's a lot of dates for security name A. You want to keep going until you get to security name B down here. So here's security B, and here's the symbol, and here's the dates again, and then here's the shares, right? That's again going to be equivalent to transposing this row of data. The symbol, the security name, all the shares, and all the dates for security name B, you want to put that on the same tab here. So the problem here, to state it once again, is that you're given this data and you're giving nothing else. This is all you're given, and someone asks you, turn this into some traditional data that you would normally see in Excel that looks like this, right? Columns and rows of data. And this is called, transposing a pivot table. That's the problem. That's what you have to figure out. So how do you do this? How do you end up with this data given this pivot table sort of data? Well, what we're going to do, I'm going to put up a video and show you one way to do it using loops, and then I'm going to put up another video showing how to do it using the copy method. So I'll just briefly go over both of those methods. The method using loops is going to have a loop that starts in row 10, and it's going to go down until it gets a blank row or gets a blank cell. So it starts in row 10, column A, and it keeps going down until it hits this cell here. That's the first loop to traverse the rows. Within that loop, so that's the outer loop. Within that loop, there's going to be another loop that's going to grab this data here, and it's going to grab this data here and here and here. It's going to loop across the columns, and it's going to grab this data and it's going to grab this data. So that's the way to do it using two loops. You would set up some variables for symbol and security name and date and shares, and you would, within the outer loop, you would put the symbol and security name into variables, and then you would go into an inner loop that would put the date and the shares into variables, and every time in that inner loop you would grab these pieces of data and deposit them on this worksheet, put them here, you know, the shares and the date and the symbol in the portfolio name, or and symbol in the shares and the security name, I'm sorry. And then you would, in that inner loop, go to the next one, and you would grab this data and update some variables and then deposit them on the sheet. So that's one way of doing it. Basically, you're just going to loop down here, and within that loop, you're going to loop across here, and then here, and then here. That is very slow to do it with two loops, so I'm going to show you how to do it with a copy method that is simply going to copy this big range of dates and copy this big range of shares, and it's much faster. So let's get to the code. So in the code, I have two subroutines. One is called transpose using copy. That'll be in the second video. In this video, I'm going to go over this subroutine, transpose using two loops. And I declared a bunch of variables. And as we use them, I'll tell you what they're declared as. So first thing we do is select the sheet final using two loops right here. And that's going to be here. So basically what I did is, because I'm showing you two ways to do this, I have two tabs. Both of them have the exact same pieces of data on them because they both do the same thing. The data that they have on them is portfolio, date, symbol, security name, shares, and portfolio name. For every date, so for every date you're going to have 4 pieces of information. And those 4 pieces of information are, you know, here's the date. Well, 5 pieces of information total. The date, the shares, the symbol, the security name, and the portfolio name. So these 5 pieces of information, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Somehow we're going to get those and we're going to put them on this tab. And then we're going to do that for every date. And we're going to do it 2 ways. So we're going to look at now how to do that using this two loop method. First thing we do is select the sheet. Let me bring this down. We select the sheet final using two loops. So I'm just going to step through the code. Here I selected the sheet. Then I highlight the data that's already on here because I want to clear it out. And I clear it out. And then I go to the portfolio sheet. So there you go. I'm on the portfolio sheet here. This is where that pivot table data is. Then I declared a long variable called xrow and an xcol variable as long again, and then another variable xrow on final sheet as long. So these are all long variables, and I initialize them with 10 for the xrow because the first row is 10 here. Xcol is going to be 3 because in these loops I'm going to start the first loop at row 10 and the second loop I'm going to start in column 3, which is column C. And then xrow on final sheet is 2, and that is the first row on the final sheet. So here's the final sheet and the first row is 2 because somehow we're going to need to keep track of what row we're going to be depositing the data on, right? So let's go back into the code. So we declared some variables, we initialized them with some numbers, and now we start the loops. So this is the outer loop. I put a comment here with that apostrophe. So this loops down column A until you hit a blank row. So you could see this loop, it says do until cells xrow comma 1 dot value is blank. Xrow is going to be 10 the first time through. So it's going to check and see if this is this cell here, you know, A10, if that's blank. If it's not blank, if there's something in it, then you're going to take the symbol and security name from the first column of row 10 and the second column of row 10. So you do cells xrow comma 1 dot text. And I use text because I wanted the zeros to remain. So notice there's 3 zeros in front here. If you want the zeros put dot text and put that into a variable. So now if I put a watch on these variables, security name, you could see in this window down here, the immediate window, I have some watches. So security name is equal to A, and that corresponds to this here, right there in cell B10, and then symbol is equal to 000375204, and that's that value right there. So what we just did is put these two pieces of information into variables, and now we could start the second loop. Remember, the second loop is going to deal with these pieces of data, the date and the number of shares. So this loop is the inner loop, and what it does, it says do until cells 6, x call. Well, cell 6, x call is row 6 right here, third column. Why is it third column? Because x call is equal to 3. And it says do until that cell 6, x call, that value is blank. So basically, the loop now is going to be the loop across row 6 until you hit a blank row, meaning there's no more dates. So that's what that loop does, and let's see what we do now. So now I'm going to put a watch on this portfolio date so you can see what's happening, and a watch on the shares. And now all I'm going to do is take this 120 and put it in, take this 120 and take this 6/29/2011 and put them in variables. So that's what these are doing right here. Those two lines, portfolio date equal to cells 6, x call, and shares equal to cells x row, x call. That took portfolio date is now 6/29 in memory, and the shares is 120 in memory. So you could see that these variables contain that information. Notice that the shares is using both x row and x call, because when we loop through this macro, when this macro uses those two loops, it needs to loop across here and down, right? It needs to loop down and across. So it's using two variables, one for the column to go across and one for the row to go down. Okay, so now we have our pieces of information. And up above, actually, I put the portfolio name here, range B3, this should be dot value. I put range B3, which is the portfolio name, into a variable called portfolio name. So let me put a watch on that so you could see that. And here's portfolio name is equal to portfolio name. These are our 5 pieces of data that we want to put on this tab. Now, why does it say portfolio name? Well, just, this could say anything. It could say portfolio, hedge fund name or whatever. It could say whatever it wants. But I just want to show you could take pieces of data off the worksheet. Okay, back to the loop. So now we have our pieces of data. Here they are. In memory, we're holding 5 pieces of data. We want to go to the final sheet, final using 2 loops. So let's do that. And now we want to know where we want to start depositing data. So to do that, we really want to use some logic that looks like this. Cells 11.end xldown.row plus 1. This will give us, this statement here, will give us the last available row. But it doesn't work if the second row is blank. It doesn't work if cell 2, 1 is blank. So you have to, and why doesn't it work? Well, it doesn't work because what this does, end xl down, is it goes and tries to find the first available, the last piece of, the last cell with data in it, starting in cells 1, 1. And it goes down and it tries to find a cell with data in it. But because there's no data below row 1, it's just going to go to, row 1 million, and that's going to cause an error. So to get around this, we put an if statement in. This if statement says if cells 2, 1 dot value is blank, then I want to deposit this data in row 2. That's what this is doing. X row on final sheet. So let's check what happens. Notice we fall into the if statement because this cell A2 is blank. Cells 2, 1 is blank. And now we're putting the values into the worksheet. So there you can see the values are being deposited here. And now we end if, and I select cell 1, 1 just because I want to be at the top the last time through. And I go back to the portfolio sheet. And then what do I do here? Now I'm done with this piece of data, 120, 629. I want to go to the next column. I want to go to column D. So I do xcol is equal to xcol plus 1. And now I'm still in the inner loop. Notice this is the outer loop. This is the inner loop. I'm still in the inner loop. So now I'm going to be dealing with 630 and 120. So if I step through this again, now we are going back to the final sheet over here. You could see we're back at the final sheet. Cells 2, 1 dot value. Well, there's something in it. So now we're not going to fall into the top, the first part of the if statement. We're going to fall into the else. And this is where it uses the end xl down dot row. And so it's going to find us row number 3 here. And you could see that if I put a watch on this. X row on final sheet is equal to 3. That's what this variable contains. It contains the number 3, and it contains that because of this statement here. Notice you have to put the plus 1 because when that end xl down is used, it finds this cell here. So once you know you want to put data in row 3, then it's real easy. We did what we do before. We do what we did before. Cells X row on final sheet, 1 dot values equal to portfolio date, and then you do it the same thing, only changing the column number and putting the symbol, security name, shares, putting all that in there. So now you could see we have 630 and the same symbol, same security name, and a number of shares. So that is the inner loop. If I put a breakpoint here and run this, you can see what's happening. It's going through, and let me go back to the sheet. It put all the data here. So this is what just happened. All this data was just populated, and it goes all the way down until 628 2012 for security A. So what it did is it took this whole entire row. If we go all the way across, the last date is 628 2012, and it has 0 shares in it right there. So if you go over here, it has 0 shares. So you just transposed one row of this pivot table. Now, how do you get to the next row? Well, in the code, you want to do this. X row is equal to X row plus 1. And you want to start this whole process again. And you have to bring the column back to 3. You have to reset the column back to 3. So you go back to, column C. So let's do that. And now we're out of the inner loop. Well, we ended that a while ago. And now we go back into the outer loop. So here's the outer loop. And you could see that the symbol and security name have changed down here. It's now security name B, and the symbol is G1151. So now we're down here. You could see security name B, G1151. Right? And now we do the same exact thing. So we're just looping through. Notice as soon as you get a value on this final tab in row 2, you're always going to be falling in this else statement and using this end xl down dot row. So we do that, and you could see here those lines that I just clicked through, it now put security B in here, and if I finish depositing the data here, so there's the first piece of data for security B. And I could run this again to show you that it puts in the second row. But notice how long this takes. This is taking like 10 seconds just for one row. So now if we go to the final tab and we go all the way down, we have security B here, right? All the data for security B going all the way down to 6/28/2012. So we just did 2 rows, right? We just did 2 rows. But notice that took like 10 seconds. And think about it. We have 78 rows, right? 10 seconds per row. That's a very long time. You don't want to wait 78 times 10 seconds. So what can we do about that? Well, we can do this a different way. But for this video, I'm just going to end it here, because if you were, I'm going to stop the macro here, and that is the macro. That's all it does, right? Oh, then there's a message box that says transpose complete. But there's the macro, right? 2 loops, and basically you're going down the rows in one loop, and then within that loop you're going across and taking these pieces of data and depositing them here. It takes 780 seconds, which is a long time, and you don't want to be waiting that long for a macro. So why did I do this? Why did I show you a slow way to do something? Well, because when you first start coding, or even maybe not when you first start coding, but when you after some time, you may write some macro that takes a long time, and you have to figure out a way to do it faster. So I wanted to show you the way that maybe you would have thought would be the best way to do it, and then I'll show you a way that is going to be faster. So that's it for this video. Notice that we have our securities A and B on this tab, and all the data. I'm not going to run this because, like I said, I don't want to wait that long. But you can run it. You could download this from the website and run it. What we're going to do in the next video, we're going to look at this subroutine, transpose using copy. It's much faster, and I'll give you a brief introduction. It only has 1 loop in it. So it only has 1 loop, and it does the same thing, and it's very fast. So until the next video, go to Excel VBA SQL.com, watch a lot of videos, learn a lot of stuff, and put your email in here to sign up for notification when free videos go up, and email me with all your questions. Thanks.